So while you're walking through,
Yeah.
Welcome to John's Joint.
Welcome to the joint.
So my son / engineer Zach
Engineer.
got me to do podcasts. When he first asked me this, I said to myself,
This is dumb.
How can I monetize this?
How can I make it my own?
And I don't think I can make any money off this unless I get, maybe Aaron Rodgers come hang with me and I can sell advertisement. But
again, like I told you in the beginning, it's kind of creepy for Aaron Rodgers to come into some random dude's house. Hey, you want to come talk to me in my house?
While I agree with you, you're talking about me. We're just laid back and chill.
Yeah.
He could pull into the garage, shut the garage. Nobody knows he's here.
He's not going back to Green Bay anyway, so
you don't know that. He could be hanging out in Green Bay right now. We don't know.
I doubt it.
Anyway, so I decided to say yes to the podcast.
To mine.
To your
mine.
Poking the bear.
Yeah.
Because I thought of a lot of my friends, and I know somewhat of what they do, but I thought it would be interesting to do a podcast and invite my friends in here and ask them to explain what they do and give a lot of people a greater idea of, hey, look at this. I never knew he did this, or I never knew that could be done, or something like that. So I have probably a dozen friends that I know of that I think would be very interesting to listen to what they do. But to start off, it's me.
Yeah. And like I told Mom, I think, and because she called me and she's like, "Are you okay with this?" I was like, "Okay with what?" She's like, "Well, that was kind of your thing, and now your dad's." I was like, "No, honestly."
He's the one that told me.
No, honestly, I mean, as far as what you're doing, I told Mom that. I was like, "You do it anyway. You go to the bar, you go see people, you go to bands or whatever, and you talk to people and ask them things and find out what they do, and that's just who you are anyway."
I got another thought too. Now that you just said that, made me think of something else. I have a friend of mine, doesn't live here, lives a few states away. But he goes into a bar, married. Him and his wife go into the bar. They sit at the bar, and they'll start talking like your mom and I do to who's ever around us or the bartender. And then he reports back to his dad on Facebook. And he said, hey, we went to Joe's Dive Bar, and the bartender's name was Lisa, and this is what she does now, but she also does this. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. You kind of ask the questions. And I was telling your sister, too, that way back in my glass selling days, I went through a couple selling classes, and it was really interesting because you have to take your ego totally out of it, and you want to understand what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, I don't know if I can explain this greatly, but the question, there was 20 people in the room. Pretty proud, patting myself on the back right now, by the way. Mm-hmm. There was 20 people in the room.
That you were around 20 people that could stand?
No. But there was 20 people in the room, and the guy that was teaching the class, he said, okay, I have a task for you. He said, you are a travel agent. And he said, it's your job to find out where the person walking in the door wants to go, what to do, blah, blah. So you have to ask those questions. And so in walks this person, and it was a little old lady. And she says, hi, I'm looking to travel to a nice warm climate with my little ones. And somebody asked quickly, oh, what ages are your little ones? Mm-hmm. And I think she said like 6 and 7 or something. So that would imply, okay, a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old. And, well, are you looking for stuff for them to do? Well, no, not really, and well, do they need to go on like an amusement ride or something? She goes, no, I don't think they'd want to do that. And the light bulb went off in my head. And I said, are your little ones children? And she said, no, they're my dogs.
Nice.
And I got the big pat on the back. Said, you asked the right question. Where, everybody else was thinking little ones were kids. So that was one of them their defining moments.
Well, for what it's worth, not to diminish that. Or
Thanks,
anything,
but you're gonna.
but if you hadn't had heard before that, all the conversation before that, would you have asked that question though? Or would you have followed the same question track? As
No, I think I would.
everybody else?
I don't have a reason for it. It just like popped in my head to go, oh, because she asked, they want to go on amusement rides, and she kind of went, no. And it was like, oh, they're not kids. So, anywho, so I gave you a list of
demands.
a list of podcast ideas,
Yeah.
and I figured that I would start the podcast off with me, see how it goes. But there are probably, I don't know, 8 ideas on there for podcasts. My thought was to do these like once a week and bring in like a friend of mine if I could once a week. And if I couldn't, then my fill-in is me.
I
know it's on there.
I know.
So you just have to spin the wheel.
I have 2. No, I already picked.
Oh.
I have 2 that I want to talk about.
Okay.
I guess you can pick which one.
Ah.
1 or 2.
Okay. Give me the 1 or 2.
No. Just pick 1 or 2.
2.
Okay.
No, that's not what I should have picked.
No, that's just not what I was going to go with. Anyway. Friendships.
Friendships.
Yeah.
So, thought process on friendships. So,
First of all, do you have any friends?
I have a few. Some of them, maybe 10 or 12 very close friends. Kind of like you trust your life with. And then probably 100 more friends that you could easily have a conversation with, like right now.
That you could be like, hey, you want to go to the bar for a little bit?
Yeah. And they might not go, I got to, whatever. But
so starting question.
Sure.
As far as that goes, I know that you've had friends throughout your life that have been there for a little bit and then gone, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What is your criteria? Is a harsh word for a friend, but what is your criteria for somebody that you do make that effort of like, hey, how's it going? Hey, what's going on with your life? Like stuff like that.
So I have a famous quote among some of my friends. A true friend is, I'm in a ditch at 2:30 in the morning. And I call a friend to get me out of that ditch. And a true friend will come get you. No, let me step back. A true friend will first answer the phone. Because a lot of people won't answer the phone. It's 2:30. I don't want to pick that up. I'm sleeping, and again, it's all about them sleeping. But as you know, my phone is always on next to my bed. And if any of my friends call, I go, because that's what I consider a friendship. And some people do and some people don't. But the true friends of mine, I think, would. And I know one guy in particular. This is a famous story that I was taking Tiffany down to Davenport. We were near Madison, and I blew a hose on the car. And this friend said, what do you need for tools? In a roundabout way, your mom told them and where we were. And in a roundabout way, he said, what do you need for tools? I'll run them to you. And he was 2 hours away. So that's what I consider a true friend, is someone who will help you when you need them.
Well, especially 2 hours away. I mean, it's one thing for me living 10 minutes to be like, hey, yeah, I'll bring you some shit 2 hours away.
Yeah.
It's commitment.
It is. When I had cancer, Ra came up to Iowa City, and can't remember if he was in St. Louis or Louisville or wherever he was. And he came up to Iowa City, and I'll cry because I cried then, and hugged me. And that's what a true friend does. When I was in the motorcycle accident up here, he called to see how I was. And he said, "Do you need me? I will jump on a plane right now." And again, that's what true friends do. And I understand some people have the ability to do so. Some people don't have gas money that they can't
But at least the effort behind it.
make the phone call, or answer the phone at 2:30 in the morning.
Well, that was gonna be my other question, and I know that there's an answer to this. But where, in your opinion, do you feel like the line crosses between I've known this person for so many years, so they're my friend, or that they've made the effort to? Is there a line? Like as far as like, you just as a bad example, but as far as people being in a relationship that they're not really happy in, but they've been in that relationship for 10 plus years, so like, oh, I guess this is my
It is what it
relationship.
is.
Yeah.
As far as
Have you had friendships like that, or
kind of,
has it kind of just been a tight knit circle?
kind of. A couple examples. Really good example too. So we had a tight knit group of friends, and I can't remember. There was some rumor about your mom, and maybe the kids were being neglected, which is a total lie, but somebody made it up, as well as other things.
Mm.
And there was a lot of people that judged us without knowing, without picking up the phone. And I don't know if you'd say weren't our friends anymore, but
Kind of pushed away.
kind of pushed away.
Mm.
And that hurt us a lot. But the shining moment in it was a couple that we were friends with at the time. They lived, I want to say at least an hour away, and called us on the phone and asked us to go to dinner and talk about it. And we were very honest and said, I have no idea where this came from. I don't know why these people would say these things, just the whole 9 yards. And they believed us, which good. But the initial part is they made the effort to find out the truth instead of
just going along
with a rumor that they heard from somebody else and they didn't get it from the horse's mouth. Also down that road, again, are the people that do believe it without asking, and they, like you said, pushed away. And that, I don't know how I would characterize myself, but that hurt me really bad. Maybe naive would be a good word. That I don't get it. I don't understand. And again, I'll throw this in. Your mom has given me a great saying about fits for a lot of things, and this is one of them. If you did understand it, you'd be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that hit home to me a lot. But it still bothers me that the people you think are your friends might not be.
Well,
and I didn't want to mention anybody's name during this because, for whatever reason, but.
And also, it's not really necessary. I mean, really, to mention names.
It's not.
But as far as your long life that you've had, I won't call you old.
Yeah, but, okay, your mom did the other day. Whatever.
But I would go ahead and assume, maybe I'm wrong, maybe people don't like you, but you've had various friends.
I need to stop you there.
Yeah.
From what you just said, maybe people don't like you. I found out
that people don't like you.
That I don't know how to say this without the way I'm thinking it. Some people are jealous of me. I have found that out. I got an email from a couple.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
No, I got an email from a couple where she said, you have a really great family. And I don't know the exact, I can't, but I'll paraphrase it, but it almost came off as, I wish I had your family kind of thing. And I kind of get that, but I don't, because I don't understand why that would keep you from being my friend,
And some people don't like seeing, and in so many words, seeing what they can't have, I guess, or to make the effort to do that. Because I feel like some people, well, and I've said this about you and Mom's relationship, me and Cheryl's relationships in general, is that I feel like most people want to look at something and be like, God, I wish I had that, instead of, well, I can maybe work towards that.
Yeah, why don't you? You know? Oh, because it's too hard.
Yeah. But anyway, what I was getting at is, do you think throughout your life that you've had friends that are kind of a time and place thing? And do you ever look back on some of those friendships as not in a, well, let's see what they're doing now thing, but like look back on those friendships and be like, oh, I wish I would have known that that was just a chunk of my life rather than.
I don't think I've ever looked at it as, and maybe in hindsight, but I don't think I've ever looked at it as a chunk of my life. I don't never look at it as I lived in St. Louis and I made friends and well, I'm leaving St. Louis now, and so these are not going to be my friends anymore. If I have friends, I consider them lifelong friends. Now, I also understand that not everybody believes the same way I do.
Mhm.
Along that line, I'll tell you another story too. My dad, um, and coincidentally, the guy that I was talking about that was a few states away, his dad, that I'm friends with on Facebook, who I've known since I was this big, both said the same thing. To keep a friendship like Ra and I have
Mhm.
takes a lot of effort. It takes picking up the phone. It takes text messaging people, whatever, some kind of communication. It takes the effort.
Mhm.
And most people don't want to take that effort, nor do they think about taking the effort. Whereas Ra and I make it a point to keep that effort.
I was gonna bring that up too. I had, you two are cute. Because it really is. The older I get, the more funny it is. You and Ra's relationship, because there are times where you'll be like, God, I just wish he could get it, sort of thing. But then, like you said, it's the effort thing. You're not always gonna. That phone call is not always going to be, we're both doing great today. But I find it, I don't know, as far as looking at friendships go, I I find it encouraging, and obviously I do it to you and a couple of my friends as well. But hey, I got an interview today. Like, can you talk me through it? Or hey, how did that go? Or
to
hey, do you plan on doing this? Do you need me to look up tickets for you or some? And it's not just one; it's both of you. And I
to be
feel,
your biggest cheerleader,
yeah,
and say you can do this.
yeah. Even if it's something that you don't, and that's kind of what I was getting at. Even if it's something that maybe you don't really understand, even if, let's say, and I know it goes vice versa, but let's say, Ra was interviewing for a job that you didn't really think that he needed or should get, but he was really excited about it. Yeah, you would be like, well, I don't think this is the best fit for you, but whatever. But it would still be but I hope that this goes well for you.
If this
sort
is
of
what
thing.
you
Yeah.
want, yeah. It's kind of funny because Ra, if you're listening at some point, um, I would never badmouth Ra. There's been times when I think, um, both good and bad. Ra and I have had arguments too.
Mhm.
It's not all a love fest. We've had some arguments, and part of that argument that he had uh, said to me that I threw back on him. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be close? That was Lori and I were having a big argument, and that was his message to me. And you just kind of bite your tongue and go, "Okay, I get it."
Mhm.
But then, when we were having an argument, he thought he was right, and I thought I was right. I said it back to him, and I think he bit his tongue a little bit. But I hold Ra on such a high pedestal, and I am so happy that he asks for my opinions on some things that he does. Likewise,
Because who really wants your
well,
opinion?
hey, I don't know. As I said, I have him on such a high pedestal that I don't know that he needs my opinion. I appreciate that he wants my opinion. I'm sure there are points sometimes in his life where he questions what he's doing, and I hope he does. I hope everybody does. It's part of growing. But still, down that road, you have to keep up the communication. You have to call each other on the carpet and not take it personally. What the hell are you doing this for?
I've said,
And maybe you're in your own world that you don't know, and it's good for somebody to wake you up.
well, and I've said that not only in my life, but also being with Cheryl and stuff. There's a lot of stuff that went on with that, and the friendships I have now, for the most part, I'm very like that. If you're doing something, I'm gonna be like, what the fuck, like, and I don't take it. I guess I don't take it personal if I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? And they're like, well, let me tell you this. And, oh, my bad.
Yeah,
I'm
because you
not,
don't see the big picture.
I'm not above being like, oh, okay, I'm sorry for coming at you like that. But also, vice versa, I've had friendships where that's not the case, where it's like, hey, you're fucking up, and they just be like, yeah, okay, and
Yeah.
like, there's no conversation about it. But I feel like that's an important thing, because if you just have friends around you that just agree with you all the time, or outwardly agree with you all the time,
Yeah, I don't know that they're
I-
true friends either.
yeah, I don't feel like I don't know. And it's the same with my family, for what it's worth. But
Does everybody blow smoke up your ass?
no, they don't. No, they didn't. No. Especially my siblings. I like that. No, but that's what I was saying. I appreciate that. I'm the type of person that needs people to be like, "The fuck you doing?" And I don't take that personal, because I know that about myself. I need people around me that can kind of keep me in check and point out shit, even if they don't really understand.
But
Just because it keeps
that flips around what you just said when you were saying, well, I can say that to them, and then they can say, well, you don't understand.
Mhm.
And you flip it back around and you say the same thing back. Well, this is what I'm going through, and this is why I'm making these decisions, blah, 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 blah.
But also, I feel
they should understand without judging you too.
Mhm. But I feel like as it pertains to friendships, especially long term friendships, I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like that is the tipping point for me, is somebody who will call you on your shit, or be like, hey, what's going on, or whatever. On top of making the effort, I feel like like you said, I feel like making the effort is a big part of it, and it doesn't always have to be in. I will say this because Cheryl's a lot like this. But it doesn't always have to be that once a week or whatever. Like, people get busy, people have lives. Some people, not that they don't want to talk, but just don't have that push through until they can get their own shit together and whatever. And that part of it, I feel like is a big determining thing for me, looking at Cheryl's friendships, is that she's very much like that. Like, she'll ghost people for like a month to 2 months and not say anything, and then all of a sudden she'll be like, hey, what's going on? And a lot of her friends understand that. Like, they don't hold it against her and was like, well, you didn't talk to me for 2 months, so you in the back row.
Yeah, thank you. I will say something very profound that most people don't say, that Ra has taught me. Also, Ra's taught me a lot of things. But we talk about some of our friends. Have you heard from them? Have you heard from them? No, we haven't. We haven't. And then they bitch and say, well, you never called me. And Ra quickly says, the phone works both ways, pal. And people don't don't point the finger at me if you're not making the effort yourself.
I had another question. I forgot.
Well, I can keep talking if you'd like.
I mean, you can't keep talking.
Some of the biggest disappointments are kind of what we were talking about before, is, and your mom shares this with me, is the friendships you thought you had, and then they walked away from you, and you don't have any idea why.
Mhm.
And it's partially my fault, I would say, because I should pick up that phone and go, "What the hell happened? You know why? You know, we used to go out drinking or go out to dinner once a month or something like that, and we don't communicate anymore. Why is that?" And I could probably say it's just as much my fault as I'm pointing the finger at them.
Yeah, but also in going back to what I was just saying, I feel like that's also an understanding between the two people too. Like if you're for example, if you're the type of person that doesn't like making the first move, I guess your friend should know that about you. Not that that's to say that like you shouldn't also try to make the effort, but they should know that about you. Such as, with Cheryl, she goes through periods where she doesn't talk to anybody, and her friends know that. So there'll be times we'll be like, "Hey, you okay? Hey, do you want to go do this or whatever?" And so I feel like most people take friendships, and this is what's sad about it, because I feel like a lot of friendships are missed out on. I feel like most people take friendships very lightly and not as serious as they should.
Yeah,
Where it's like, yeah, we hang out, we're fine, we're great, and then, oh, they didn't message me in like 2 weeks. Oh well, I'll just move on, and it's not a thought
yeah,
after that.
yeah.
So, do you have? I know you have a lot of stories, but
Do
do
I?
you have
Well, it's because I'm so old.
other than other than I know you have a lot of stories about Ra showing up for you.
Hmm?
Do you have anything besides him that really like stuck out in your head of a friend like being there even when you didn't necessarily need them, I guess?
Somehow I knew you were going to ask this question, and I do have one good. I'm sure there's a lot more examples, but the one um, really good example is what's it been? 10, 13 years since a motorcycle accident.
Yeah.
So we were in that motorcycle accident, and I was airlifted, to the hospital in pretty bad shape. And
Back up.
as my kids like to say, morphine.
Yeah. Back up. I noticed that the other day that it was close to 13 years now.
Yeah,
And I was like, it doesn't even feel like 13 years.
it doesn't. It doesn't.
I remember that very clearly. And then I was looking back on it, and I was like, "There's no." I say that to Cheryl all the time. We've been together for 8 years. And I was like, "There's no fucking way we've been together for 8 years."
Well, your mom says that about us too, and we've been married 38 years. She says 37, but I have to remind her that's 38. But 38 years, and it doesn't seem like that at all. It seems like 10, maybe.
I've had people. Obviously, I've had people tell me that all the time. Well, time's just gonna fly by. You're just,
It does, Zach.
You're not gonna notice.
I laughed at my dad when he said it, and now I'm here.
And I've laughed at you, and I didn't get it until Wyatt was born. I really didn't. I had been with Cheryl, and then I had realized how long we were together, and then after we got married. But I was like, okay, I can kind of understand that or whatever. You're in between it, but after Wyatt was born, I think it's because I see him every day get like change and be different and grow and learn new things that it registers more, I guess. It just seems like so fast.
It does. It goes fast. Yeah, in a blink of an eye, and you go, "What just happened? Where was the last 10 years go?" But back to your question.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Something that really stuck out to me. So motorcycle accident, airlifted to the hospital, morphine,
Mm-hmm.
out. I'm asleep or whatever you want to call it. I'm out
On a beach with Bob Marley.
and I wake up, and there was 3 or 4 couples that were our friends that were sitting by my bedside.
Mhm.
When I got out of ICU and got into a regular room, that came and seen me and wanted to see how I was doing, um, and that meant a lot to me, because I'll use your brother, who doesn't like hospitals at all. I get that. My dad didn't.
Mhm.
So I'll just call him, or I'll hear from a friend if he's doing okay.
You know,
But it's the people that put themselves out again, 2:30 in the morning, that'll come get your ass out of a ditch.
you know what really blew my mind about that though is Bob
Bob.
Starkey.
Yeah.
It's him being like, "You all right? Take all the time you need. Let me know."
Now get back to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just the effort itself, like
Yeah.
there's not a lot of people that would have even made, like, obviously from a company standpoint, you're gonna call and be like, "You still alive?" But like, he called you multiple times when you were in the hospital.
He did.
just to say hi and
He
hey,
did.
how you doing? And
He did. That was a friendship. Now it's a distant friendship. I love Bob to death. He helped me a lot too. I'm sure I helped him. Um, but funny story to friendship there, that so he lived out in Baltimore, or
You need-
still lives out in
you
Baltimore.
need a new bike.
No, lived out in Baltimore, and I was working for Winona Foods, and I was really stressed out, and he knew it. And when he came back for a meeting, he took your mom and I out to dinner, and he made it very clear that I need to shut up.
Hmm.
It's just cheese. It's not somebody on a table and you're replacing their heart. It's not heart surgery. It's just cheese.
You know what's funny about that is we have a. You've told me that story multiple times, and now he is the operations manager, something like that. But at the time when I first started at Psalms, he was my facilitator. And he used to say that every pre-shift. It's just sausage.
Yeah.
He would say it all the time.
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me because, and it stuck with me now as I moved up in the company, but it really stuck with me then because I was an asshole. I was really angry.
You're not now.
And really stressed. No. See, I've calmed down.
Having a kid does that to
It
you,
does.
doesn't it?
Priorities.
Yeah.
But I was really angry, and I had to keep reminding myself of that. And now it's in my office.
Really?
Yeah, we have whiteboards. We have whiteboards in our office, and there's a whole lot of shit that I had to kind of go through the fire in being a facilitator. Other people nitpicking and stuff like that. And I was really stressed out. You can ask her. I was really stressed out for a really long time because I was like, I just want to get this right. I don't want people to, keep nitpicking at me. I'm just doing my best. Like, and it was just one of those, I don't know, it was one of those dawning moments where I was sitting in the office and it kind of popped in my head and I was like, you know what? Fuck this. Like, it's just sausage. I just got to do my job. I just got to figure it out. And so I put it, it's in the office. I wrote it on the whiteboard.
Nice.
Yeah. I keep rewriting it because people keep.
Your mom keeps telling me to focus on the positives, which I do. But the whole friendship thing, again, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the friendships that we have, the long time, especially the long time friendships that we have. But there's still that part of me that goes, but what happened to the other people?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had friends, we had really, really close friends that we were friends with for 10 years. I can mention 2 or 3 couples that we were really close with for 10 years. And all of a sudden they dropped off the face of the earth.
And that's a avenue that I was getting at before, but does it bother you to the point, because I feel like this is a mistake that people make, just personally, does it bother you to a point to be like, oh, I wonder if that friendship can be that way again? Or is it kind of just like, I wouldn't say out of sight, out of mind, but is it just kind of like that was a time and place thing? I hope that they're doing well, but
I don't think so. I think um, I think part of your question is, could it be rekindled?
Mhm.
I believe it could.
The same way?
90% maybe, but that's enough,
Mhm.
to put it back. And again, it would take efforts on both sides. And I blame myself as much as I would blame somebody else. I don't know that I know that I've reached out to a couple of them and like I told you, you have a great family, yeah, okay, I get it. So, but those are the things that bother me that, um, you know, I look at it like I look at Ra. So if I look at myself and Ra, and this is just my opinion, I'm here and he's here.
Mhm.
Now, there are some things that it flips, but for the most part, it's like this. But I'm not jealous of Ra. I'm not have anything against Ra where I would say, I'm not talking to him again.
Mhm.
And I don't understand that mindset of people.
Or feeling insecure is not the word that I would use, but it's close enough. Or feeling insecure, like, for example, Ra's intelligence compared to yours. I would say sometimes it's about balance. Sometimes he tips into that insanity side. But I mean, you've said, and he'll probably disagree and say that he's not that much smarter than you are. But
Oh, I don't know about that.
but but his intelligence based on yours, you're not looking at him being like, well, I can't talk to him about something
Correct.
because he's up here and I'm down
Correct.
here.
Correct.
The same way as family stuff and stuff like that. I feel the pseudo embarrassment I guess, of being like, well, they're up here, so they wouldn't get it.
But I don't. I'm pretty sure if I know Ra well enough, he wouldn't put it on that plane, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't put it into an intelligence. Put it in that box, because there are so many more facets to a friendship, rather than, hey, you're smarter than I am.
Well,
and he knows that.
I said this to Cheryl, and it was kind of, I don't know. There are just times, kind of like friendships. There are just times that she says things that I'm like, oh shit. Like me and Cora, for example, are really good friends all through high school. The most since I moved up here, and then after high school and everything, we kind of just went our separate ways. But we still kind of keep in contact, but not really like a, hey, let's sit down and have a conversation thing. It's more of a, hey, remember this song, or like, hey, remember this happened, or just funny shit just throughout. And that's kind of how our relationship has been the last probably 10 years, I'd say. But she's never missed my birthday, at least saying happy birthday.
Mhm.
She was one of the first 10 people to tell me congratulations with Wyatt. Like, she's still there. And then a couple weeks ago, I heard this song, which I really like. But I heard this song, and just something about it, I sent it to her. I sent her a video of me singing it, actually. And we went back and forth like that for probably an hour. Didn't really say anything. Like, there wasn't like a, that song's cool sort of thing. It was just, I sent her that video. She sent me one of her singing a song, and then we kind of just did that for like an hour. And that was then when about it or whatever. And that's kind of what I was getting at. It's kind of what I was getting to, is that, do you have friends, and this is going to sound mean, but I'm not trying to make it sound that way. Do you have friends for specific reasons? Like, obviously you have Ra, who's an overall, like, with everything, but do you have friends that are like for specific situations?
I don't think so. I think of a couple couples in town here, a couple that are out of town. That, there's a couple out of town. I'll say this: there's a couple out of town that we've been friends with for quite a while that we enjoy taking a weekend like every once a month in the summer, maybe once every other month, and go see bands.
Mhm.
But I don't know that I'd call that a specific reason because, as I said, if these people, if you needed something or if they needed something, each of us would be there. I don't know that I'd go for a specific reason. I wanted to follow back around about the effort though, because this
Mhm.
popped into my head. So, and I know you've heard this story a million times, and I would hope that my children hear it for the millionth time.
Yeah.
That
I just tune it out.
I used to go down and see my dad,
Mhm.
and it's a 4.5 hour drive. And my dad said something very profound to me was, it takes an effort.
Mhm.
And we understand, your mom and I understand that, you have 5 kids and you have grandkids now, and that takes a lot of your time. And we get that. And then there's the pause for the guilt trip, but we'd sure like to see you more. And I will say that to my kids and my friends that, we'd sure like to see you more.
Mhm.
But that might be selfish too. And then that was the light bulb that went off in my head, as you know. And we started driving to Davenport once a month to see my parents before they died.
I've I don't know, I've made, and not just because of that, but I feel like that was seeing your dad towards the end, seeing him when we would or you would show up was kind of a defining moment for me with you, and not in a, well, he's gonna die sometime, so I should do, but just seeing how happy he was that you were there.
Mhm.
It's one of the things that I have pushed myself to do with you and mom too, is just pushing that, hey, how's it going? Hey, what's going on? Hey, how's your job doing? Like, just talking. And I know I mean, you don't live that far anymore, so I could just come over whenever, but
But
especially when you weren't up here, when you were in Beloit and stuff like that, just doing that.
it's
But
hard because you got a family,
but it's
and,
it
and it costs money, and
but
it costs time, and I get it.
but it's an effort though. It costs no money, well, for the most part. It costs no money to call
True,
and be like, "Hey, what's going on?"
true. And my dad, when he said that, and I got it, because like you said, when you go down there and he lights up, and because
Mhm.
he's happy we're there. Um, and as we've said, sometimes we haven't said the nicest things about my mom,
Mhm.
but later on you understand
It was
that my
just an
mom
overwhelmed thing.
that my mom was who she was because she was overwhelmed with all the stuff that was going on around her.
Mhm.
But when it was just Lori and I, she was awesome. I
Yep.
mean, we seen a whole different side of my mom that
Mhm.
was incredibly awesome. And but
Not
it's making that effort.
not to I just wanted to touch on this a little bit. Do you look back, have you looked back? I know you do a lot of, well, self-reflection, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah,
in your old age.
I do.
But do you ever look back on your mom specifically, on situations in your life, and go, "Oh shit," like knowing that now, like obviously knowing that part of her, and like what you and mom and me got to see, like towards the end of her being a different person, kind of understanding the
Oh, well,
overwhelmed thing. Do you look back on it and be like, "Oh, maybe she wasn't as
all
bad
the
as I
time,
thought"?
all the time, all the time. But I also understand my own, but people's limitations, and
Mhm.
her limitations, which according to your mother has become my limitations now, is I'm not a big fan of the chaos.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of what you and I are doing right now.
Mhm.
Um,
Sitting in silence and talking.
I wouldn't say silence, and again, but I can appreciate, if I were to put myself in my mom's position wholeheartedly, I could see it. So now you have a quiet house where it's just my mom and dad and Lori and I,
Mhm.
and you can have conversations like this. Um, Side note, which kind of plays a part. So we're talking about, there's a good show on, Paramount Plus.
Mhm.
the checkup, and it has people's disorders. And Howie Mandel is on there, if you know who he is. And
I do.
He's not only got OCD, but he's got ADHD and da da da. And so your mom's like, yeah, I can see a lot of that in you.
There's no fucking way that I would do any of the shows Howie's been on with his shit. There's no way.
But so your mom says, I can see you. You got a lot. She goes, you're not that bad. I always get that. You're not that bad. But
there's people definitely worse than you.
But I brought you up too because I said, you know what? I try very hard at biting my tongue because I'm a person that if I'm interested in a movie, I need you to be quiet. And she understands that, but then she goes, oh, I think I'm going to go out to the kitchen and make me a sandwich. And I could hear every single, you're pulling the knife out because you're going to spread the mustard on the bread. I could hear it all, and it just irritates the hell out of me. And I go, God, I hope I didn't give that to Zach. But then I go, but I think Zach found a way around it where he watches subtitles now. But and I think that's what I get from my mom is when Lori and I were there, talked to mom and dad, that's one thing, and it was great. But when you got 3 other people in the house and they're walking by you and they're distracting you and you hear these noises and this going on and that going on and talk to each other, and it's a big distraction, and I can see how it's annoying now.
You're definitely right about that. I kind of found a way around it. We can talk about that. But
we can talk about that on your podcast.
Yeah, we can talk about that when I feel like it.
Yeah.
No, but going back to that, I mean, me and you have talked about that. I get it. I completely understand. And there are times that I go back and forth with my siblings. There are times I understand where they come from as far as being frustrated with your frustration. Like, well, you had kids, you know you have grandkids, you should know it's not going to be quiet all the time. I get that. I agree with that too, but also from your perspective, I get that too, because there are times even when I'm like, okay, I'll watch the subtitles and I'll just put it out of my, it still bothers me and irritates me. And I think it's just, I've had this conversation with mom. I think it's a sensory thing on a lower scale.
Yeah. I'm no Howie Mandel, but
no, I feel like it. I feel like it is. It's a sensory thing on a lower scale of your brain. Like, I'll use Cheryl for an example. Cheryl is able to zone out completely.
I think your mom is too.
She's able to watch a movie and the house could be on fire and she wouldn't notice.
Yeah,
because she would just be fucking zoned in. Some people have that ability, and I just don't.
Yeah, me neither.
It's the same with sleeping. That's why sleeping's so difficult for me too. I was going to tell you that.
Oh, see, I could sleep with a train going through the house.
No, I can't. That's why I sleep with a fan.
I don't think your mom can either, and I think that's why she doesn't sleep that well, because she's always tired, is because she hears, I could get up to go to the bathroom and be as quiet as could be, and I don't slam the door by no means, but if she hears just a click, it'll wake her up enough that, are you okay?
Mine too. Me too. That's why I sleep with a fan, and it's weird, and I've noticed it more now. I didn't really notice it before. I've always slept with a fan, but that if my head isn't by that fan and I like roll over, even in my sleep, I'll wake up because the sound changed, or I can hear something that I couldn't before. It's just really.
So does that cause a problem between you and Cheryl when, you got Cheryl on one side of the bed and you on the other, then the fan's in between the two of you? Does that have a problem?
No. No, we have an open relationship.
Oh, okay.
We're all in.
But sometimes the fan has to sleep on the other side. Okay.
You got to take turns.
Yeah. Huh.
So
friendship.
Yeah. I was going to get back to that.
Oh. By the way, I've heard several times of you and your wife bitching, not directly at me, but I get it. I know we're off the subject, but That's a
Well, let's-
jab at me. I
Let's
understand
circle
that.
back around.
I know that's a jab at me.
You
and I
spent a
don't
lot of
care.
time talking about something else. No, I was gonna go. I was gonna go back to the people showing up for you.
Mhm.
And I know for sure Raw is a big one. But have you had, as far as the show up thing, even if it's little, a couple that stick out in your mind?
As far as if they would show up for me or if they call me, or
if they have like a moment other than
a small moment that you didn't think they would,
like
or you didn't think anybody would and they did.
Yeah, like even if it's little, like let's say like you were playing softball and you didn't think that anybody was going to show up and watch you as far as friends go, and some like even if it's something small like that.
I want to say there is and was,
unexpectedly.
but I can't remember who, because obviously, like the motorcycle accident was a pretty big deal. So that's not little.
Was this a big deal?
It was a big deal. There's so many bad things, but
You know what I remember about the motorcycle
but
accident?
as I tell people, I live to tell about it. That's all that matters.
You know what I remember about your motorcycle
What?
accident? Bringing you breadsticks from Fazoli's.
You know what I remember somebody bringing me, which meant the world to me. Here's another thing.
A bottle of Jack.
No, here's another thing. So when that all happened, my boss, the owner, one of the owners of the company, allowed me to take his motorcycle, and it was his motorcycle that I wrecked. And I can't tell you how bad I felt. And he showed up in the hospital with Dove chocolates and cashews. Those are my two favorite things at the time, and he brought them to me. And I just, I kept saying, I am so sorry. And he goes, get yourself better. And he was a guy, older, kind of where I am now, where you see a bigger picture. And his wife later on said directly to me. So again, I just can't tell you how bad I feel that this happened. Regardless if it was an accident, it was partially my fault. I get the whole thing, but he seen that bigger picture. Didn't make me feel any better. But out in the parking lot one day, his wife was out doing some like gardening outside, and she said, "How you doing?" And I said, "I'm doing a lot better." And I said, "I just can't tell you how bad I feel." And she goes, "Don't." She goes, "If he was that kind of person where that motorcycle meant so much to him, I would have never married him. Material things mean nothing to us. It's the friendships that you have." Well, there's a big wraparound, isn't it? And that hit me very hard. It wasn't talking to him, it was talking to his wife that said, I would have never married him if he was that kind of person, and he's not. So that kind of verified that. So, yeah.
It's weird. I was in, I don't know, maybe we can talk about this on mine or yours. That's another one. But I was thinking about this, and I've brought this up many times. It's weird to look back at where I am now and where I was in certain, or where other people were in certain times. Like, I've told you about the Josh thing. That trips me out.
Yeah.
Once I hit, that was, and you can ask Cheryl, that day was weird for me. Just because I was like, I'm older than he was. Like, it's just weird.
Yeah.
And there are just things that I look back on, like as far as friendships and stuff. And I go, man, if I only knew then what I know now. Like, and I feel like it goes to both sides. They're looking back on it. There are friendships that I wish I would have realized were as good as they were then. Put the time more into it. And there are other friendships that I wish I wouldn't have put as much effort or feeling into them, knowing that they weren't going to be there now.
You can't say that, though. I mean, you could say the first part, but not the second part, because you put in your heart. And don't ever begrudge yourself for making the effort. If that's not reciprocating, you put in the effort and they didn't, and that's all on them now.
So you should just put in the effort to every relationship that you're ever in.
Yeah, I think you should. I mean, if
You should be as friendly as possible.
if that friendship, I mean, there are people that wanted to be our friend, Zach, that, oh my God, I don't know that I could ever be somebody's friend. I don't know, I could tell you stories about that, but it's just dumb, stupid story. And you kind of go, ooh, and you realize who people are. I mean, everybody's different. I've said that.
Mhm.
And you just go, I don't know that I would connect.
I think that
I thought they were this, but they're not.
I think that is a big thing, and I don't think that that's a bad thing either. I've said that. I think it's a very good thing that even if other people want to be your friend, for you to outwardly look and be like, I don't really think this would work dynamic wise. Because there are people that, yeah, they're nice, but you can't go camping with. You can't do things with other than like a, hey, how you doing? Like sort of thing. And I don't think it's a bad thing to recognize that and be like, well, if you say hi, I'll say hi, but I'm not inviting you to do this sort of stuff or whatever.
Yeah. I'm going to sway down a different, really weird. I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but there's a story that I'll put together, kind of, that you're going to go out to dinner with another couple,
Mhm.
and you meet them at the restaurant, and they show up at the restaurant and say, "Hey, we'd really like to have dinner with you, but we don't have any money. But I do have a bottle of Cabo Wabo. If I give you that, would you pay for dinner?" That happened, and you kind of, if you would have said, "Hey,
You take
way back when,"
you take the bottle, obviously.
well, yeah, no, but I'm saying, "Hey, we don't have any money to go to dinner,"
Mhm.
like the day before or something like that. I'd say, "Okay, well, come to dinner. I'll buy you dinner,"
Mhm.
and that wouldn't be a problem. But don't show up at the restaurant
Mhm.
and say, "Oh, by the way," and yes, I did take the bottle, by the way, and I bought them dinner.
Well,
but,
duh.
But it just, I don't know. People, and it has nothing really to do with money. It sounds
Mhm.
like that did, but it didn't. It had to do with,
You knew you weren't going to be able to pay for it, and yet you still.
yeah, you could have called me the day before and said, "Hey, we don't have the money," I said, "Hey, I'll buy you dinner," and they say, "No, we'd rather you don't," and have a discussion.
Even day of.
Yeah, but at least have the discussion,
Mhm.
not show up at the restaurant. So, but
that's kind of what I was. But that's kind of what I was getting at. Is I don't think that that's a bad thing.
No.
And also I don't. One of my biggest problems that I see with people as far as friendship goes and couples is that everybody wants both sides to be friends with that friend. And I don't think that's a bad thing for both of them not to want to be friends with them.
True.
Like let's say you're friends with somebody and mom doesn't really like them.
Huh?
That's fine. But I feel like most friendships or most couple friendships, they expect either one side or the other, they expect both people to be their friends. And I think that's unrealistic.
I agree.
Especially as adults.
You
have so many different personalities and so many different things that I'm not going to like everybody that you like.
I agree.
And you're not going to like everybody I like.
Yep. But hopefully you find the right couple or friends that you do.
But that does.
Or you're able to put up with them just a little bit.
at least for dinner.
I would have to call this quits here quickly.
Yeah.
Is
your timer running
because of time? No, mostly because my dog's doing what he's doing, and it's not time for him to go out. But I think that's what that means.
I'm not quite sure, but I think that's what it is.
If there was somebody knocking at my door or something like that, then he'd be doing that. But he's doing that for some other reason. I think he needs to go out. So, so if you'd like to go shut it off, and hopefully this all recorded.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was just thinking about that actually.
Because I heard something about 10 minutes in, so hopefully it didn't shut off. But if it didn't shut off, for the ending, I'd like to say, so if you're one of my friends and you would like to be on or if you're one of Zach's friends And you'd like to be, hey, one of your friends like me. Shut up. Okay, they like your mom. How's that?
Yeah, they like mom.
There you go. If they like to be on the podcast, come on in. I'd like to hear your story too, because everybody's got a story, and that's what this is about.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, break.
Break.